Ricky Baker, now you are 13 years old. You are a teenager and you're as good as gold. Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, happy birthday. Once rejected, now accepted by me and Hector. We're a trifecta.
Three Films and a Podcast has no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode. All film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders and is used solely with the intent of film criticism, commentary, and education under fair use law. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Three Films and a Little Podcast. Coming to you from Salt Lake City, Utah. This is Ben Lawhorn, and I am joined today by Matt Weiler and Tyler Beck, who's up in Portland. Today, we are doing a little pod episode, and as these little pods are meant to be run, we're going to try to keep this short and sweet, and we're going to be going over the movies that we watched before this was a podcast, when we were just three dudes watching movies.
I was bored around.
I know. Just what we need. Three white guys talking about movies. So yeah, that's what we're going to be going over today is round 4, which was a round that I was in charge of the selections. We've kind of changed our process now where we kind of have one theme overall for the rounds. But when we were doing this back then, we were kind of giving each individual person a theme. So we'll go over those later, but yeah, I just want to say real quick, really appreciate everyone's support. These little pods are a lot of fun for us. Kind of allows us to, I mean, not that any of them are really work or anything like that, but these are just kind of a fun recap. You've probably heard, a movie draft or two by now. Some of the recaps of our watch parties that we have, which are always a blast. So these episodes are really fun for us to record because it is just like a little more lighthearted and just kind of an easy conversation to have. But today, yeah, like I said, we're going to be going over round 4. My first prompt was, I believe it was to Tyler. Let me check my notes. I should have done this. I asked Tyler to pick a BAFTA winner, which is essentially the British Oscar Awards. I asked him to pick a BAFTA, I believe a writing winner. I was very much trying to target him towards one specific theme. I was not so subtle with all the hints I was giving to him and Tyler throughout this. It's like, oh, just so you guys know, Taika Waititi just won a BAFTA for writing. So, yeah, anyways, Tyler, here's your category. So, yeah, we're going to first be talking about Jojo Rabbit, and Tyler, will let you take it away.
Yeah, I apparently this won a BAFTA. It's the 2019 film by Taika Waititi, again called Jojo Rabbit, and it follows a young boy in Hitler's army who finds out his mother is hiding a Jewish girl in her home, and or in their home, I suppose. And I mean, on a surface level, that's exactly what this is about. We have, are they in Germany or where are they in France? Where I can't remember where they are.
I believe they're in Germany.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so we've got this kid who is growing up under the banner of the Nazi army, I guess you could say. And it's a sort of a coming of age story about a young man trying to find his way and find his place in Nazi Germany. And it sounds a whole hell of a lot more depressing and sad and bleak than it really is. It couldn't possibly be farther from that. It's very heartfelt. It's very charming. It's very loving and warm, which is weird to say about a movie set around the Nazis, from the Nazis' perspective in particular. But yeah, it's just like a fun coming of age story, sort of almost like a fish out of water coming of age, underdog story. This poor kid, all he wants to be is a great Nazi in Hitler's army, and he wants to make Hitler proud. And for some reason, as the viewer, you're on board with this and you're rooting for the kid. You really want success for this kid. And without tipping my hand too much towards the end, maybe some lessons are learned and maybe some worldviews are changed. But it's got Roman Griffin Davis plays Jojo, and it's got Thomas McKenzie and Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson, she's just such a treasure.
So good.
She's so great.
Someday you'll meet someone special.
Why does everyone keep telling me that?
It's so funny because it's almost sort of like I take her for granted now. It's like,
oh yeah,
when I see her name in a movie, it's just like, oh yeah, Scarlett Johansson. But then, you see her in a movie, like you just think of her, oh, it's just Scarlett Johansson. But like her role here as Rosie, as JoJo's mom, is just, she's just so good. She's so charming.
Really, yeah.
She's great on screen. I mean, she's obviously beautiful, but she's just. I don't know. She's a real talent, and we're lucky to have her, and we're lucky to have seen her in so much stuff. I mean, she's in like at least a quarter of our 2020 Rushmore Mountain. Between Marriage Story and this, like, a couple different movies that she was in this year. Not only was she in our end of year list, she was also nominated for Oscars. And I didn't mean for this to turn into a Scarlett Johansson.
We're renaming this
praise party.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as the rest of the cast goes, I mean, Sam Rockwell's in this, Rebel Wilson's in it, Alfie Allen, Stephen Merchant. There's a lot of cool people in this, and there's a lot of really interesting characters in this, both in the actual characters themselves and then the people that play them. And it's just, I don't really know what else I could really say about it as far as describing the movie.
No, I mean, I think everything you said was spot on. This was obviously a huge year for ScarJo between this, Marriage Story, and Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much now that where ScarJo just gets wrapped into Black Widow, but we get to step aside. And again, like, I mean, if you want to hear us gush about Marriage Story, go back to our round 2 recap, go back to our Rushmore for 2020. Like this is a pro Marriage Story podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
You call me at 3 a.m. I will talk to you about Marriage Story.
If you want to,
I even put that in my letterbox that this was one of my 2 favorite movies this year where ScarJo ties someone's shoes for them.
Yeah.
Because she does it in this and in Marriage Story. But I mean, I had a great time with this movie. I think this is a blind watch for all 3 of us.
Yeah.
I think none of us had seen this before. Matt, like, what were your thoughts on the movie? Did you have like a favorite scene or anything like that you want to throw out there?
Yeah. So I've been very open about how I'm a very happy ending person, or if it's not a happy ending, I like the sweet reward in a movie to sort of offset the sour or the down parts. And the thing about Taika Waititi is like, he does do that. And from literally everybody I've talked to, like he successfully does that in this movie. And I guess on my first watch, I didn't get all the way back up. So like it is beautiful, as Tyler mentioned. I think it captures so much humanity that you're not even expecting.
Yeah.
I don't think you go into it necessarily empathizing with Nazi involved people. Like we've never empathized with Hitler Youth before.
Yeah.
We've never empathized with Nazis that were not okay with what was going on, with Nazis that were helping people sort of get away with things.
Yeah.
And those are things that we haven't seen explored, and we haven't obviously seen anything about Nazi era Germany shed in like a more comedic light. I know that there's movies like Life is Beautiful where there's some beautiful, like funny scenes in that, but it's not a comedy. Whereas this one, I feel like does play very much as a comedy.
For sure.
It was like, so Taika Waititi, he comes from he's like half, I don't know how to say it. Maori.
Maori. Yeah, he's half Maori, half Jewish.
Half Jewish.
Yeah.
And so this is I can imagine a very close project for him. Trying to articulate certain feelings and I guess just come out on top on such a dark part of human history. But speaking of the dark of humanity, it really just highlights sort of the light of humanity during that time.
For sure.
And it doesn't mince any tragedy that you'd think would be missing from it, because it's certainly there. And I don't know. So, I mean, the whole movie is great. I would highly recommend it. I just remember being like sort of put down by it and not brought all the way back up. I guess that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of sounding like a Nazi apologist, it really is like, it really does show that, like, you know, it's whatever side you're on is the side you're on. And like, I certainly don't sympathize with their cause, but, you know, if you're just an average person in Germany, like, what does that look like for you? It's probably a lot of the same things that we go through. It's like, you know, some people probably bought into it. Some people probably didn't. And there was a lot of people, like you mentioned, Matt, that were sort of in the middle. And they're like, yeah, I'm a Nazi, but like, I'm also going to like not be an evil, you know, to help people out
but
of it.
Even like Sam Rockwell's character, you know, he comes in, he is like a Nazi, and he clearly knows that they're hiding someone there, and he covers for him. And then also, I mean, just with the kid, it's like you grow up in Nazi Germany, your mom is like trying to, you know, throw a cover up, and her best cover up is you being a Hitler Youth. And if you're a kid, an obsessive kid at that time, like Hitler's the guy. And so I think it shows it in a very comical way, like a totally like bananas way, but like, you can kind of see how a kid would be totally into that. Yeah.
It's very relatable to just want to be a kid that just fits into the world around you. And unfortunately, this kid happened to live in a truly repugnant part of the world, and especially at this time in history. It's probably pretty sweet to grow up in Germany now, but I can't imagine, you know, like it's relatable, you know, it just shows that, like, you know, at the end of the day, like none of us are really all that different from one another. It's just, we happen to believe different things. And hopefully you believe, the right things, I guess you could say, you know?
Yeah. But I think this is interesting because like it does shed the humanity on these people, especially with him and his best friend, who I think kind of steals the show, Archie Yates. Like,
for sure,
he is absolutely adorable in this movie.
Yeah.
What's going on out here? The Russians, Jojo, they're coming. And the Americans from the other way. And England, and China, and Africa, and India. The whole world is coming. Help me with this ammo. And how are we doing? Terribly. I'm only friends with the Japanese, and just between you and me, they don't look very Aryan.
And yeah, they're just like little Hitler Youth. I'm like, oh, these kids are so cute. You know? But the fact that Taika chose to take on the role of imaginary Hitler, and just like, you know, he's even said in interviews, he's like, yeah, I figured what would piss him off more than this like half Maori, half Jewish person playing him. Like, fuck him. That's what I'm going to do. So that's why I did it. Like, I remember reading about this movie and like, how do you make a story out of like imaginary Hitler? This is something else. Like, I had full confidence in him because I love Taika Waititi, but it's like, man, this is going to be just kind of nuts. So I don't know. I'd love to hear, you know, before I go into mine, if you guys had any particular favorite scenes or anything about this movie that really stuck out to you. Tyler, do you want to let us know what yours was?
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm not stealing everyone's thing here, but for me, it was imaginary Hitler.
Heil me, man.
Heil Hitler.
What? You can heil me better than that.
Heil Hitler.
No, just throw it away. Don't even think about it.
Heil Hitler.
No, you're overthinking it. Heil Hitler.
Heil Hitler.
Who's Hitler? Do you even speak German?
I just thought it was like the most ridiculous, silly, like it's a pretty gutsy thing to do to try and make this work. And the fact that not only does he make it work, it genuinely succeeds and is truly like, I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but it's just like, it just works, you know, it just, and it's funny and it's charming. And it's all things that you would have never thought you would use to describe a child's relationship with his best friend Hitler. So for me, that's the thing I always think about. There's a million things to love about this movie, though. So I'm sure you guys can come up with some other stuff, but for me, that's what takes it.
That's awesome. How about you, Matt?
Mine's gotta be ScarJo's character. I mean, I think she was just like a beautiful human being in it. From the way she was parenting. Not just for the cover up, but like she spent time with Jojo. She was a single parent. She would still go for like walks with him, taught him some like important life lessons, even though she knew that he was like obsessed for his sake, for his safety, was obsessed with Hitler. She was still teaching him like very important things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like my favorite scenes was when she's like kind of playing the dad and the mom in the scene. I was just like, man,
Jojo,
I know you miss me, but I'm out there trying to make a difference in the world. And while I'm gone, I need you to take care of my Rosie. Can you do that?
Yes, Dad.
Thanks. She's doing what she can.
And to like not throw any shade at that for the kid, you know,
Yeah.
like just like I guess her parenting, the way she was written as a parent. And I was just curious, like I haven't read too much into this movie, so I don't know where that inspiration came from, but the character that they made out of her was just amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it was so good. She's wonderful in this movie. If I had to pick, I mean, I'm going to kind of cheat here because I thought you guys might take some, so I had some like backed up. So I'm just going to go through all of them. The funniest thing I think in the whole movie for me was when Stephen Merchant comes to the house and they just do all the Heils. Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler.
Yeah.
Like they just keep doing it over and over and over. And just
so
hearing,
funny.
I think it was he was the one that came up with that, and hearing an interview with him, he's just like, man, I just thought it'd be really funny. Like, what if they kept up with that like decorum every single time like someone new came into the house? Like, yeah, that's really funny.
Just 'cause
That's
they're
hilarious.
obligated to
You know,
do
it's
it.
like it's just
so
like
funny.
how can you make a joke out of saying Heil Hitler? It's like, well, this is how. This is really super funny.
Heil Hitler. 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 You know Freddie Finkel. Heil Hitler. 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 Heil Hitler.
So, did I miss anything?
No, we were just Heil Hitlering the boy, and then Heil Hitlering yourself, and then, of course, Heil Hitlering Freddie Finkel, and now we're in the midst of a routine inspection.
There's a clip online of Adam Driver singing in Marriage Story, and I feel like I account for like 400 of those views because I've watched that thing over and over again. But if there was a close second place, it's the ending scene from this movie when Bowie starts to play and they just start like dancing like across from each other and stuff. Like, man, like that just like, I hear what you're saying, Matt, about how like maybe it didn't bring you back up completely, but I couldn't leave this movie sad after watching that scene. I'm like, okay, cool. These two have got each other, got a little Bowie going. Like this was such a great ending. And it actually just leads into my actual favorite part of the whole movie. And it's at the very end. It's like the quote that comes up at the end of the movie. I've got it pulled up here. I'm just going to read it, but it hit me. It knocked me over. Like it was just something that was really powerful to me, but it just says, let everything happen to you. Beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. And I thought, whoa, like I've never heard that before. It's a quote, obviously from, I don't remember exactly who, but, from Go to the Limits of Your Longing. And man, when that came up on the screen, that just like really took the wind out of me, you know, like, oh wow, that's like such a cool concept to keep in mind, I guess. It's like we're all changing. Everything was happening to us and we should let it happen to us, not necessarily fight it because everything's going to pass. We'll
Right.
keep going. I just thought that was beautiful. I love that so much. And it's like for a funny movie about a serious topic, whatever, like there's still some really great emotional impact. But along those lines, talking about like no feeling being final and just keep going on, I kind of want to like roll this into our next movie, which is also a Taika Waititi movie. And Matt, you chose Hunt for the Wilderpeople. So if you could tell us a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, awesome. So Hunt for Wilderpeople, I had seen a buddy of mine, Race, if you're listening, thank you. Please like and subscribe to the podcast.
Tell your friends.
Yeah. Which it was a great recommendation. I had become familiar with Taika through Thor Ragnarok. That was my first exposure to him. And the thing is, he's been around. Like I looked at his IMDb to see like where Wilderpeople sat on his filmography, and he's had his hands. He's played different roles in he's done everything for TV and movies. Like he does, writing, acting, directing. He does it all. So this is 2016, starring Julian Dennison, Sam Neill. Takes place in New Zealand. It's about a foster care kid kind of just finding his home, basically. But it's done in such a funny way with just like funny characters, just complete oddballs, and also highlights just sort of like the rural nature of New Zealand, which is kind of like part of a love letter to rural New Zealand, basically. And I really loved it. I was familiar with Julian Dennison from Deadpool 2, and Sam Neill kind of stole the show for me. I hadn't seen him in a role like this, just kind of a grizzled old man.
Really cool in this.
Love Heck. So good.
Yeah.
So, what's your dog's name?
Zag.
You should get another one and name it Zig. Bella told me to tell you that you should give me something to do. Is there anything you want me to do?
Yeah. Leave me alone.
Cool.
And it was just like such a good feel-good movie, and I feel like that's kind of Taika's brand from my experience with him. He knows the recipe to just like put the audience in a great place, and this was no different. There's just so much heart and humor, and I don't know what else I can say about it. It's awesome.
I think that's great. I think, this could easily qualify as like an unsung gem. I think when it comes to chatting with some other people, there's not a ton of people I don't think that have seen this. Not that it's like a really rare movie, but I just don't think it's one that's up there with Thor and What We Do in the Shadows as far as what he's known for. This was a blind watch for me. This viewing was, I'd already seen it, but I remember walking over to Broadway Theater one day after work. I had seen Eagle versus Shark and What We Do in the Shadows, so I recognized the name, but I had no idea what I was getting into. And I think how you put it was just wonderful. It's just like it is. It's kind of a tribute to the rural New Zealand countryside. But man, I did not expect the laughs that I got. Like this was such a funny movie for something that isn't necessarily like a comedic set piece, like where it's located or anything. You wouldn't necessarily think that. But I had a great time. I'm glad that we watched it. Tyler, what were your thoughts on Hunt for Wilderpeople?
Yeah, basically all the same thing you guys have said. I went into it completely blind. Other than knowing, it was a Taika Waititi movie. I didn't even know Sam Neill was in it. When I saw him, I was like, oh shit, this guy looks good in a jungle, Jurassic Park and Hunt for the Wilderpeople. But yeah, I think you guys pretty much nailed it. It's like Taika has a definite thumbprint on all his movies, even Thor, it's just like, there's a sort of like levity to it. And there's a sort of like, maybe not so much in Ragnarok, but there's a like definite warmth and there's like a silliness to it, but it never gets too silly. Like no matter how silly it gets, it still somehow stays, grounded in reality. And like you said, it's not necessarily a comedic set piece, but it's definitely an odd couple, right? Like this kid and Sam Neill couldn't be more different, which is the crux of the movie in itself. So, other than that, I truly loved it. It just barely missed my top 4, Rushmore Mountains of the year. And after seeing, a handful of Taika movies this year, it's like, he's become a guy, like if his name's on it and it comes out, like I have to see it, it's,
that's exactly how I feel. Like I made it a mission to go back and watch everything. I think I'd only missed Boy, which was his second feature film after Eagle versus Shark. But that one held up perfectly. It's so funny and tributes to, kind of the old 80s Michael Jackson and how his son like can, pretend his dad's the coolest guy in the world. And like, he does all this awesome stuff. And Taika's, he's in that. He's hilarious. I'm with you. I think he's someone that for me, we talk about this sometimes with Nolan, with Wes Anderson, whatever, but these directors where it's like, if your name's on it, I'll watch it. I don't really care. He's proven himself with Mandalorian, even in his casting, he has, the woman who plays like the correctional officer, Rachel, what's her name? Rachel House. She is so funny to me. To go quickly into it, that's probably one of my favorite scenes of this whole movie is when she's going over all the crimes that he's done. It's just like spitting and just like dumb stuff like that, but that montage that goes on.
Apparently he's a bit of a handful, real bad egg. If you look in his file, you'll see that for yourself. We're talking disobedience, stealing, spitting, running away, throwing rocks, kicking stuff, defacing stuff, burning stuff, loitering, and graffitiing. And that's just the stuff we know about.
And just like the way that she says it, I don't know. Rachel House like really cracks me up. She showed up in Thor, which is great. She was recently just in Soul, and I thought she was wonderful in that as well. So I hope we just get more and more of her. But yeah, I mean, to play my hand, that's probably my favorite scene from this movie is that whole montage of Ricky Baker's crimes. But I'd love to hear what you guys, have to say. Matt, like, do you have a favorite scene from this movie? Something that really stuck out to you?
So you'll always hear me highlight songs that make it to my yearly playlist. And from this movie, it was that Turn the Lights Down Low when that dad and daughter take Ricky in for a little bit.
Yeah. And
it was just like an unexpected thing to just like throw in there. But like the girl's playing and then the dad just joins in. You don't even know he's there.
So good.
Oh, let your moon come shining into our life again.
But yeah, that's got to be my favorite on-screen version of Turn the Lights Down Low. And
nice.
Not my favorite part. Well, maybe it is my favorite part. I also like the Ricky Baker song, his birthday song.
Oh, I love it.
At the table.
The little keyboard and everything. And just like watching Sam Neill, that whole scene, like he was so over it. He's like, "You kidding me?" Yeah.
He's such a silly character. What a funny, odd couple. Ricky takes my favorite moment. I don't want to say exactly what the moment is because I think it's too funny and I don't know how funny it would be. I don't want it to be ruined for someone. But there's a moment in the movie where things get real and you'll know what I mean when you see it, when you watch this, if you haven't seen it already. It's, even though it's not it didn't top my list of favorite movies or whatever, the scene and the line, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think about it all the time. So it easily won for me. And in fact, it's like I can, if I'm being honest, barely remember anything else about the movie without prompt. Like when you guys talk about this stuff, it comes back. But when I look back without prompt, it's like, that's the only thing I can remember. So for me, it's when things get real, Ricky Baker has a unique way of dealing with it. So
that scene's so good. But I love Reese Darby in this as well when they run into him towards the end, and just like his comedic stuff, like, oh, the underground tunnel. He's like, you got an underground tunnel? Like,
Sam, what's the fastest way out of here?
Jetpack.
Do you actually have a jetpack?
No. What? Wait, I've got an underground bunker. This tunnel leads directly to an underground train. I haven't dug it yet.
Like just all that kind of stuff. Like there's some great humor in this. But yeah, the Ricky Baker song is so good. And the scene where they run into those other guys, and I don't know. I really enjoy this movie. I'm glad, we got to check it out again.
For sure.
Taika for me is just like, he's doing great stuff. And along the lines of great stuff, I'm just going to go into what my pick was. I did not really give myself a category. I guess I technically put it under home invasion. But I talked about this before, so if you've listened to our episodes, you'll hear this again. But this was a movie that I was just like, Matt, Tyler, I need you to watch this movie because the Oscars are coming and I'm going to need to text some people when this movie loses out of like frustration and anger. Like I need someone to like vent to. So I selected Parasite because I really needed you guys to see this before the Oscars happened. This was one of the very, very rare occasions for me where, since getting involved in Letterboxd and really like processing movies that way while I'm watching it, this was one of the only movies that I've ever, after the first watch, just been like 5 stars. I'm like done.
Yeah.
Like there's, I can't, I know I'm not overthinking it. I just know this is a 5-star movie and that's all there is to it. Ashley and I went and saw it in the theaters. Weren't a ton of people there, and I was just kind of floored. It's like, whoa, this was, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. But this was just like amazing, and it's kind of this weird thing of like, we don't need to like get into politics by any means, but there's something that's kind of strange about like experiencing something that's going to go down in history in the moment. And that's kind of how I felt watching this, where it's like, I think I just watched like a masterpiece the week that it came out. And I don't know if that's right or not. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's like, no, I get, like, if I had watched Casablanca, like that's a great movie. I get why, you know, Vertigo, like all these kind of movies are touted as masterpieces, and they are, but it just felt so strange. It was like, I think I just watched one of the greatest movies of my life. And that just feels really weird to not be like, you know, an exaggeration, but that's really how I felt about it. I was like, man, this was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And as I talked about before, that was also within like a 2-week period of watching Uncut Gems and Knives Out. So it was just like it was a really great 2 weeks for me at the movie theaters.
Once in a lifetime.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know when it's ever going to get replicated, but yeah, I really love that movie. I just like made you guys watch it more or less. Like, you guys need to watch this. And I guess I've just been talking about it, not even really explaining what it is, but it's a Bong Joon-Ho's movie from 2019. I don't know how to talk about it too much without going into the spoilers of it. So the IMDb tagline just said, greed and class discrimination threaten the newly formed symbiotic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan. So we're kind of there's one main family, and they get involved with another family, and I don't know, hijinks ensue. I don't know how else to
Certainly
explain
hijinks.
But man, this was a perfect movie to me. I think we're kind of in a consensus in the group amongst that, but Matt, I would love to hear your thoughts on Parasite.
First off, if you're listening to this, it's 2021, and if you haven't seen this, shame on you.
Shame.
Like, stop the podcast right now, fire it up, watch it, and
come back. Come back and talk. Yeah.
But geez, like it won, and it deserved to win, and it's crazy that it won. Like, it was one of those things where, like, you can't believe it won, because you almost feel like the ones that like really deserve it, that should be unanimous, that really do, never win. And then on top of that, it's a foreign film, and so it had several things going against it. But I was thrilled. I was thrilled to see it win. Every year, my wife's family does like sort of like an Oscars competition, like a March Madness sort of thing with the Oscars.
It's my favorite part of the Oscars.
Yeah, it's great. And Angie and I had picked it to win, and no one else did, and no one else had seen it, and no one else had really like heard about it. And then, like, on top of it being like a foreign film, like foreign films just typically, you know, I mean, we know, just don't. They have their category, like it can win its category, and we move on. But after the Oscars, it was like Angie and I trying to convince every single person to watch the movie. It is an experience unlike any movie I've ever seen. It's like the storytelling, and it's perfect because it just pulls you along, and it's shocking in several different areas of the movie, takes unexpected twists that you've never seen in any movie. Because, I mean, at this point, we're all groomed to expect a lot of things that are the same and remixed from previous iterations of something.
Right.
And you're not going to find this in mythology or Arthurian lore. Like, this isn't based off of anything. This is its own thing. And we're going to see things based off of this and remixed from this for the rest of our lives.
For sure.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And so it was exciting to witness it and to see it. And everyone in it was just great. I mean, I don't know if I have like I'd probably have to watch it again for like a favorite part. But I mean, there are levels to it too. Like the parasitic relationship is just, I mean, that's up for interpretation, you know?
Yeah.
And that's one of the geniuses of one of the pieces of genius of Bong Joon-Ho. And I really like, I know there's a meme about it, but it's always the scene that comes to mind where they're just like outside the door and they're like rehearsing like what they're going to say.
Yeah.
아 잠깐. 제시카 외동딸 일리노이 시카고 과선배는 김진모 그는 네 사촌.
And that's what always comes to mind when it comes to that movie. I know there's tons of parts that I love about it. That's always the part that comes to mind.
I love that scene so much. That was wonderful. The thing I love about that, I mean, I read so much about it, and just like I try to digest as much as I could, but one of the things that Parasite does so well is they use the camera as like it's used as a visual, but like as the viewer's viewpoint, where we're going up to the door with them, and then we stop and we turn back to them while they're practicing their thing, and then like we turn the camera as she moves forward to like ring the doorbell. Like the camera's movement is very intentional throughout this movie, which is just one of the many elements I think of like why it works so well. And I'm glad you brought up the Oscar thing, because that really was like why I was harping on you guys so much to like please watch this, because like 2 years before we got we thought it was La La Land, and it ended up being Moonlight, and it was like, okay, cool, like the diversity is starting to pay off. Like we're starting to recognize actual great movies for being the great movies they are. And then 1 year later, they're like, Green Book. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So we're not really progressing as much as we think we are. So that's why I was just like, I know they're just going to give it to 1917 for the long tracking shot. There's just no way it's not going to win. But yeah, best picture, best foreign film, best director, best writer, like it for all the categories that it was really in contention for. I think it took everything it needed to. Tyler, what were your thoughts on Parasite?
I mean, in all honesty, like when I think about this movie, it's almost too good. It's almost like I consider myself to be a fairly intelligent person, capable of critical thought and analysis, but it's like when I think about this movie, it's sort of dumbfounding, right? Like,
yeah,
it's pretty incredible to think that in the year of our Lord 2020, when this or 2019 when this came out, that he was able to create something truly authentic that like we've never seen before. I mean, I haven't seen every movie in the world. That's why we're doing this podcast. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, I've never seen anything like this ever.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter that you can't understand the language. It's subtitled and all that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter that, we can all relate to struggle and ambition and wanting more for ourselves and feeling less than, or looking up the hill at the houses at the top of the hill and wishing you could be up there. But at the same time, it's like, as an American, it's different living in America, even in the big cities, than it is living in like the big cities and their own class systems in Asia, right? Mm-hmm. Like Ben, you and I have been to South Korea. We went together, and we've been lucky enough to travel and in some cases live in big cities in the United States and around the world. But it's like, it's just different, everywhere's different. So it's like, even though it's so far removed from our reality, we can relate to it. It's just, I don't know. I've just never seen anything like it. Mm-hmm. Like it was really cool cool might not be the right word, but it was interesting to get a peek into like what it would be like to live in that world at that class level. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And to see like the true beauty in it, like how much that family means to each other. That's probably, in a weird way, that's what stands out most to me, is just like the love that family had for each other. Mm-hmm. And like there's a moment where they're all eating like the instant noodles together in the basement. It's pretty early in the movie. It goes from what you think is going to be like a family struggling to survive movie, which it is. And it just keeps, it's like you're in a tumbler and it just keeps flipping what this movie is. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of a quote that I heard or read, or I don't know. It's not that it's like that crazy or that authentic of a quote anyways, but it's like, you can't break the rules until you know all the rules, right? Mm-hmm. Like, don't worry about breaking the rules until you know them all. And it feels like he knows exactly everything that you can do with the film, and he like created something completely new from it. And I don't know, it's pretty incredible. And it's like, I just said a whole lot of stuff that basically just means like, it's just, you just have to see it. It's like, we can sit here and describe it and go scene by scene and pick it apart and spoil everything, which, maybe is what people want from a podcast, because I assume if you're listening, you've seen this movie. Yeah. But if you haven't, like, go see it. And if you have, I'm not sure what I can add to the conversation other than the 4,000 words I just spit at you guys. But
yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you. I remember telling you guys that I was worried I was overselling it, you know, when I was trying to just hit home how badly I need you guys to see it. It was like, I don't want to ruin the experience, but like, I cannot stress this enough. And I mean, I don't think it ruined it for either of you guys. I think it still just held its own. I was like, oh yeah, this is a really strong movie. I often like reflect like some of the visuals of just like, you know, the peach fuzz dust that, you know, he spreads as he's walking by, like for that like allergic reaction. That's just some of the visuals are astounding in this. But like you said, Tyler, like I don't know what you can add to it. You know, how do you, I don't know. Like, how do you describe perfection? You know,
yeah. How do you describe the Mona Lisa to someone? It's just a painting. But it's like, or how do you describe like, you know, any, you know, pick a work of art or pick a song or whatever. It's just like, it's just, when a piece of art reaches the certain level that Parasite reached, it's like, I don't know, man, it's the Sistine Chapel. It's whatever, you know, like compare it to whatever you want. It's like,
you just gotta see it.
Fucking amazing. You gotta go see it for yourself, form your own opinions. But
so yeah, I guess that being said, go watch the movie. If you haven't seen it, please go watch this movie and tell us what you think. Tell us if you think we're crazy or whatever, but we'd love to hear your thoughts. We normally do a Rushmore Mountain at this point, but we're kind of introducing a new idea here with the round recaps and just kind of going over, you know, for each of us, maybe something that was the winner out of the 3 movies of this round, a favorite scene, favorite piece of music, a favorite whatever throughout these 3 movies. Matt, do you have a winner for our round 4 recap?
My honorary mention, since I'm not going to name a spoilery scene from Parasite, a scene that I often think about that's made me super class aware is when the Mrs. Park can smell Mr. Kim in the car.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I always wonder, like, do I have a scent that upper class people can just smell me?
Yeah. And his face, like when she says that, you just like see it in his face.
Oh, I know. It's just like, oh man. And I know that like, obviously like Tyler pointed out, like we're not even in comparison to like what some of those like lower class metropolitan areas in Asia face. But like, yeah, just like that class awareness is just like degrading. And I still feel, you know, sad and all that. But for sure. my I think for me, what wins this round, the scene would have to be the David Bowie scene at the end of Jojo Rabbit. You know, when that song comes on, and like it's funny because obviously it's like an anachronism where obviously the song doesn't belong in this time, but they use the German version, and like just in the context, it just is such a beautiful. And then it rolls into that quote that Ben talked about. It's just like so good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Such a powerful scene for sure. How about you, Tyler?
Gosh, it almost seems like a cop-out answer, considering it makes up 2/3 of this round. But for me, the clear winner of this round, despite Parasite being one of the best movies I've ever seen, was Taika Waititi. Because, you know, for me, it was like, if I think of this movie from my own lens and my own perspective and my own little world, you know, he completely won me over. You know, there's a few directors that when the movie comes out, like, chances are I'm going to see it. Like, whether or not it's in the theater, like, I will at some point see that movie. Like, Tarantino falls into that realm. Chris Nolan falls into that realm. You know, so on and so forth. Now, Taika is right up there with him. So, for me, despite Parasite being my favorite thing I watched all of last year, I will say Taika is the standout winner for me.
It's a super solid choice. Mine's kind of a tie between 2 people from Parasite. I mean, it's so easy to say Bong Joon-Ho because, you know, just like directing this movie and, you know, writing it, all that kind of stuff. Like, obviously his importance is there and it's understood. But I think my winner would be Song Kang-ho, who was the dad in Parasite. I feel like his performance really, like, he's worked together a lot with Bong Joon-ho. We saw him in The Host, which we'll be talking about eventually. Like, he's a great actor. And I really think that he kind of is the through line for me anyway in this movie. Like, I really connect to him. His humor at the beginning, like, oh, I'll praise the Wi-Fi gods, you know, like all that kind of stuff. And just like the way the movie ends. And he's just, he's wonderful. He's an amazing actor. And he was probably my favorite part of the whole movie. So I'm going to go with him. Although a very close second would be just Ricky Baker in general. I just want to be part of the Skux life. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Next time you see me, I'll have a Skux life across my chest, just tattooed. So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, this was a super fun round. I think these were all like really great movies. I'm glad we watched them. Thank you everybody for joining us to talk about, or listen to us, I guess, talk about this, but we'd love to hear what you guys think. If you guys have seen any of these movies, we want to know what your thoughts were on them. If you're looking forward to their next projects, we got Thor 4, Love and Thunder coming up, as well as his like Taika's Star Trek movie or Star Wars movie, which is going to be great. I don't know. Yeah. Just love any participation that you guys have. We'd love to hear from you. So, yeah, I guess, signing off for Matt and Tyler, we will see you guys next week.
Yeah.